Okay, appreciate that. And can everyone see my screen okay? You see the presentation?
Looks good.
Okay. Well, hello everybody. I want to commend those folks that have hung out this long. I know it's been a long 3 days doing a webinar, and I really appreciate you hanging in there to the final hour. Uh-oh, somebody's dog. So what I'd like to do is, within the next 30 minutes, I kind of want to bring the group up to speed on what the Greening Fire Team has done over the past few years, since it's been about 2 years since we last presented to this group. And the way that I'd like this to work is we're going to try to make this as interactive as possible. And throughout the presentation, we're going to be introducing some new concepts and ideas, and we'd love to have your feedback. So in the little, I guess, the chat box, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns or complaints, go ahead and log them there, and we'll try to address those either at the end of our presentation, or we'll hit you up offline. And for those of you that are paying attention, we do have a prize giveaway here at the end of the presentation, so stay tuned for that. And with us today, so hopefully you guys can see those nice pictures of those smiling faces there. I'm Dennis Fiore, been team lead for the Greening Fire Team for about the past 5 years, and we've got Will Shaltis. He's new to us this year as a team member. And then we have Allison Kant from NREL, and she's going to do a mini presentation within a presentation talking about energy audit at fire camps. So, for some of those folks that may have sat in a few years ago, this will be a review for you. And for the new folks, we just want to talk about, give you some background about why the Greening Fire Team exists, why we are tasked with looking at sustainability at fire camps and across the fire community. And then, as I mentioned earlier, give some updates about what's been going on the last couple of years. And then Allison will talk about the energy audit. And then, of course, at the end, I've got some questions for the group. And at this point, we're really needing the insight and wisdom of the logs chiefs here across the nation to kind of help us with some of our challenges that we keep up against. And just to acknowledge that the logs chiefs are a huge part of sustainability because that's kind of where the rubber meets the road with logistics. Okay, what I want to do is I kind of want to hone in here on the highlighted red lines there, specifically Tom Harder's guidance letter, and that gave directions specifically to fire and aviation management to start looking at sustainable options in 7 categories. And I'll hit that on the next slide. Those 7 areas are those areas that we need to focus. If you look at it in context of an ecological footprint, we're trying to come up with ways to kind of minimize our footprint at fire camps. And there's lots of different ways to do that. And the Greening Fire Team, we think we've come up with some pretty good recommendations. And again, we're trying to vet some of these concepts through the logs group to see if we're heading down the right track. Again, there's 7 areas of sustainable practices that we're kind of looking at. And eventually, the Greening Fire Team would like to touch on all 7 of these, but we realize this is an enormous task. So what we're trying to do is take little bites off the apple. And for this year, we're looking at facilities and water, and we're looking at appropriate responses to fire, i.e., how can we increase our visibility at fire camps? It's kind of along the lines of putting out the Greening Fire Team and Sustainable Operations brand so that when people see that, it becomes recognizable and people understand the mission behind what we're trying to achieve. Okay. So I want to just kind of hone in there on our vision and mission. the vision is a pretty lofty one, and we put a target date of 2030, which is way down the road. And it's essentially looking at eliminating any waste, reducing the amount of water consumed and energy consumed at fire camps. And it's going to take us a long time to reach that mark. So what we hope to do in the Greening Fire team is come up with a best management practice guide that will be available for logs chiefs, IMTs, basically anybody in the fire community to access, and it would kind of lay out strategies or tactics or methods to achieve definitely the mission and also the vision. So that is forthcoming. We're hoping to have some kind of deliverable within the next 5 years. So stay tuned for that. And here's just a couple of priority areas that we're working on currently. And this is kind of and I'll have another slide here that talks about our program of work for FY15. And some of these should be fairly familiar with you guys. You know, the waste reduction, recycling, energy and water conservation, alternatives to plastic bottles, and then outreach and education. And as I mentioned before, we're putting a lot of emphasis on outreach and education. And we hope that transcends all levels from the boots on the ground all the way up to executive level, line officer level, about what Greening Fire Team mission is and sustainable operations. As I mentioned, fire camp is a great environment. It's the crossroads where all types of people come together, and we just think it's a great opportunity for outreach and education, and really making a difference on reducing the ecological footprint. So again, just briefly mentioning about our visibility campaign is that's where we really think we can connect to people, is at ICP. Okay, and here's just a little factoid for you, and you might want to pay special note to this slide. Hint, hint, if anyone's interested in winning a prize. And I just want to highlight, it's just a little factoid about how many plastic bottles folks go through. On a typical fire, typical crew person, they go through about 12 containers or 12 bottles a day. And this is just briefly our program of work for this year, and one thing we're real proud of, and this is, you know, internally, we came up with a 5-year strategic plan that kind of outlays our program of work for the next 5 years. So it kind of gives us a trajectory, something to shoot for, and it's a living and breathing document. And out of that document came these kind of items that we're looking at. And I know you're probably asking yourself, well, how does this impact me as a logs chief? We're going to segue here. You know, we have a few slides for you. One on creating a visibility campaign that Will's going to touch on. You know, the continued promotion of electrolyte alternative. I'll touch on that briefly. And then also the recycle bins, trying to make a difference there. Okay, Allison, are you ready to chime in here?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Go
Perfect.
ahead.
All right. So if you could just keep advancing. It looks like all the words aren't up yet. Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for allowing me to speak for just a couple slides. But I wanted to talk a little bit about our task supporting Forest Service through a fire camp energy audit. So fire camps present great opportunities for environmental footprint reduction, so not just energy but also waste and water opportunities. The focus of this is mostly energy, but we are going to be looking at water and waste reduction as well. The energy use in fire camps is likely large and unsustainable. So we're still kind of working to understand that energy use, but I understand it's largely driven by, and operated by large and costly inefficient generators. Oftentimes the generators are just kind of what's available, and they're maybe wrong sized and too large for the load, and so they're running at really inefficient loads. There's fuel use transportation obviously associated with using generators, and that's risky and inefficient and very emission causing. And then also the water use and waste generation on fire camps present a lot of opportunities for reduction. So NREL, where I work, has been brought on to support an effort to conduct an audit of a fire camp. And I think, Dennis, there might be a couple more bullets. In this fiscal year, we're working to develop a baseline for a fire camp, and then in fiscal year 16, we'll be actually conducting an energy audit of at least one fire camp, and also looking at a waste stream and water audit as well. Okay, I'm ready for the next bullets or next slide.
All right, hang on with me here. Huh. One by one. It's frozen on my end. I don't know why it's...
There you go. It looks like it's moving.
Right. That'll wake it up, I guess.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, there's the work for FY 15 and 16, and the main takeaway is that our goal is to identify opportunities for savings, so for energy and water and fuel and cost savings, and then also try to develop a best practices guide that can be used for fire camp operations more broadly than just the one that we consider. All right, next slide. So as we embark on this effort, we've really just started, but there's some data needs associated with this work. And so we're really trying, as I mentioned this year, to define a baseline. And so, really whatever data is out there, we would be grateful to get, whether it's, nationally for all fire camps or one particular fire camp, but we're looking for things such as the generator specifications, generator and fuel use, generator run times, fuel cost, and then similarly for water use and cost, and then waste generates. So we're working to gather this information this year as we move into the next year where we'll actually be doing the audit. So I just wanted to highlight the work that we're doing this year and potential opportunities for synergies. And that's it, Dennis. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Alison. And I just want to chime in and answer the question, why are we doing an energy audit? And what we're trying to do is an overall assessment. If we go back to those 7 components that Tom Harbour wanted the fire and aviation management to focus on, we're going to actually create a scorecard, and we're going to apply that to ICP, and we're going to kind of come up and generate a kind of how are we doing currently kind of scorecard, and look for areas of improvement. And I think another really good advantage to this, Alison mentioned about the best management practices, but also it'll allow for information exchange, specifically for new technologies that are out there. All right, so I think next we're going to go in here and talk about the visibility campaign. Are you ready, Will? Ooh. Will, are you out there?
Let me double check him to make sure he's didn't get muted somehow.
Okay.
What? Wait a minute, sorry. It looks like he's live. Will Shoutus, can you copy?
Give a shout out, Will. Where are you? All right. Well, I guess I'll just pinch it. Okay, so this slide, our visibility campaign, which we're putting a lot of effort into this year, and we hope to have wide, broad scoping visibility at fire camps, but we realize it's going to take the help of logistics to kind of help get that word out. And a couple of ideas that we're throwing around is posting SUSOP flyers, and I have an example of one. Mind you, it's draft form, but the intent was to have it placed in certain strategic areas so that firefighters can see what's going on and possibly learn some sustainable operation tips in the process. Also, we have our Greening Fire Team logo that you'll notice does not have any agencies affiliated with it. That was by design because we understand that sustainable operation transcends all agencies, and we are interagency in the fire management world. Another couple of ideas that we're throwing around, and that would be inserting some kind of language or blurb in the IAP. I know those tend to get larger and larger over the years, and lots of information in there, but we're hoping we could get at least a little corner of one page to dedicate to a sustainable ops message. And then, of course, in morning briefings, talking about, for example, where are the bulk water tenders located in the morning, where are recycling bins set up, et cetera, et cetera. All right, and then this is what we're calling our green tips. And this is just a concept we put out just hot off the press this morning, so I wanted you to kind of take a look at that. And this is kind of the idea is these would be posted around camp. Now the question, there's a lot of questions associated with how do we get these posted up on around camp, and that's where we're hoping to get some of your advice. Okay, I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, and I want to talk about recycling stations. I'm sure you're all aware those come in many different shapes and forms and designs. They're all over the board. What we're hoping to do with the Greening Fire Team is bring some consistency. As you look in the photo, you see what we're targeting here are the blue plastic tops with the metal stands, the plastic bag. It would be a dream come true if those showed up on every cash van across the United States so that they could pull those out, set them up, and start recycling right away. And again, looking at trying to get some feedback from you guys to see what you think about the feasibility of that. And more importantly, what's kind of going on in the background behind the recycling station is coming up with a template, recycling template for logistics to help with the actual recycling, working with counties, states, local municipalities, et cetera. And here's one more slide. I'm hearing a bad echo there. I'm going to try and reduce that. Hopefully that's not happening. Is anybody hearing the echo?
We're sounding good on our side.
Okay, maybe it's just me then. Okay, so the electrolyte alternative, this is something that the Greening Fire Team has been working with fire leadership at all sorts of levels. And the basic premise here is to provide an alternative to the Gatorade bottle. We're not suggesting to remove the Gatorade bottle. We're just suggesting that maybe a powder form in addition to the liquid form could be beneficial. And there's lots of good reasons to go that way, and we also understand that there's lots of reasons to be cautious about going that way as well too. But what I want to point out to is the electrolyte showed up on a fire last summer I was on, and it was in a powdered form, and it came from the med tent. So there was a medical unit leader that felt that providing the electrolyte in powdered form was an acceptable, I guess, form of medication, quote unquote, to provide to firefighters for the health benefits. Now it was purely electrolyte. It was not a supplement. It didn't have any other vitamins in it. It was just an electrolyte powder form in a little packet. So that may be a part of your experience, or you may see that. I just wanted to give you a heads up that somebody's working around that. Let's see.
Do you want us to read any of the comments coming in as you go, or wait till the end?
How many are we looking at? Getting any, or take
yeah,
a lot of time to carve out?
Look like half a dozen, maybe, something like that.
Yeah, let's wait till the end. Let me kind of cruise through this. If
No
that works
problem.
for you.
Works
Okay.
for me.
All right, good deal. And then, on this slide here, we're looking at doing some more pilot studying. And that depends on the IMT and the region. But this, at least you look at those 5 items that we're trying to promote. And we've had various forms of success so far. Again, these are kind of like a proof of concept. Could this really work in the real world? Could these ideas work across all regions, all across the United States? Okay. And then here's kind of to sum it all up here in a few sentences. And I guess it goes back to some of the challenges that we have in the Greening Fire team is how do we, how are we connecting with log chiefs? How do we tap into all that skill set and wisdom and knowledge? And then we were trying to, in that same vein, we're coming up with a few ideas on, and this is again, I think it's a good idea, but I don't know. The idea of having an individual dedicated to SUSOPS duties assigned to the fire. Is there value to that? Would that help manage logistics workload or not? Is that a realistic ask? And then again, on the third bullet there is what's going to be the best mechanism to communicate with all the logs chiefs? I mean, this is obviously presenting information here, but that's only every couple of years. But is there a website or email works best, or what do you think would be the best, especially when we have new ideas or something new comes up that we want to try? How can we reach out? And we're always looking for champions out there to help with the Greening Fire team. If we could get a logs chief to sign up and be a part of our monthly meetings, that would be awesome. All right, prize giveaway time, and I'm not going to tell you what the prize is, so you're going to have to take a little risk here. And the way this will work, Martin, is the first person to get the answer right, go ahead and type it in the box there, and you'll get the prize.
Okay.
How many plastic bottles are consumed daily by a crew member while on a fire assignment? Okay, time's up.
Oops.
Go. All right.
Yeah, it was 3,300.
Did we get any winners there, Martin?
Let's see. Hold on a minute. I got to help find the answers. Josh, can you see?
First on the list, Kevin Clark, and a nose behind him.
All right, Kevin Clark was the first one in with the correct answer.
Oh, Rob Griffin.
Congratulations.
Rob Griffin.
All right.
Rob Griffin.
Rob Griffin?
Yeah, Rob Griffin. Kevin Clark in second.
Okay. Okay.
I hope they don't consume
Rob Griffith, please reach out to me. We need to get your email so I can mail you your prize. Right there, you can pick one of those 3 items: a Hydro Flask, 32 ounce, 20 ounce, and then there's a coffee mug on the right. And there's my contact information. So you want to dive into the questions? Are we doing all right on time?
Sure, we are. Let's go ahead
Okay.
and let me see here. Oops. Josh, you want to go ahead and read the first one that you can see, and I'm going to back up too to catch some of those.
Yeah, I'm seeing where that starts. Let's see. So that would be Rick Martin. Looks like the potable water items have been updated for 2015, so thank you very much for doing this. It is appreciated. Makes our job a lot easier. Thanks for an excellent presentation.
And that was the previous one. So the next one is with William Shaltis, your guy, actually typed something and had to do with the, I think it was your poster that you showed. Note that this is a draft copy looking to make the firefighters less Sesame Street, he says.
Okay, copy that.
What's his number?
I'll get that to you at the end here. And let's see, Rob Griffith says, firefighters will use what drinking water is made available to them. Getting it into something bigger than a plastic bottle is our job. That was his comment. Okay, next one from Brent Spencer. Another great variable is location, time of year, and elevation, which all affect the need to provide heat to workspace, briefing areas, and feeding areas. If you do an energy audit, make sure you include a cold location to balance the normal hot location where we need to provide air conditioning.
Excellent point.
Okay. Then the next one is from Roy Spencer. If you want to get rid of bottled water, go back to 2 or 4 quart canteens. They can be reused if properly managed, and personnel can load up canteens from the potable water trucks.
Okay, excellent suggestion. What we're saying is we're not trying to eliminate bottled water, even though it'd be nice, but we understand there's a reality. But we are encouraging folks to use reusable canteens, whether that's a 32-ounce. I know there's the plastic ones that come out of the cache, or example of the cubies or the banjos, and with the understanding that we have to also encourage people to use proper hygiene and washing their reusable canteens. So thank you for that comment.
And here's one from Rob Griffith, who's trying to add on and get a second prize, perhaps. He says, state law in California requires recycling, and many county trash services address this through off-site sorting of recyclables and are not set up to handle pre-sorted loads, which they just commingle and resort as part of their regular business process, or resort, I mean, as part of their regular business process.
Well, that's awesome for California. Wow. I know we try to create habits, right, to get everybody to separate, and then California comes around. Thank you for that insight.
And then Bob Harrell says, he had a comment here, many times there is not a location to take the recyclables, to recycle.
That is very true, and I think it comes down to a question of how much is the fire willing to pay to send that stuff off to somewhere.
And that would be...
That could be, yeah.
And that would be something that I mentioned in a chat thing about a lot of what you're talking about is certainly going to depend on the agency administrator's role, who's responsible for overall management and cost, accountability and such as well, and so forth. And then Van Cheney has a comment that says, gray water disposal is usually regulated by state or county health departments. Most no longer allow surface disposal, or dispersal, surface dispersal. And then Norm Michaels comments here, commingled recyclables are common in Oregon also. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Let's see. Do you see any others on there, Josh? Question type or comments?
Yeah, another one just popped in. We have a recycle. This is from Ray Kingston. We have a recycle vendor in R3 that we can occasionally use on an EERA incident only basis. If it's important enough, what about trying a VIPR solicitation?
That is another great recommendation. The Green Fire team is looking at that as an option of just having that stuff contracted out. again, it comes back to the feasibility depending on location.
Hold on. Who is that? Go ahead, please.
This is Rick down on the Willamette. I had a couple of questions or comments. On Dennis, on the recycle station, you showed a picture of the wire bins or racks that with the blue tops that you would put recycled bottles in, and I would suggest maybe look at those in a little different way, because when the wind comes up, they tend to blow around camp a lot. We get a lot of messes with the wire racks. So we've gone to garbage cans in a lot of cases that we can tie down. So instead of those wire racks, if it would be possible, I know it's a space issue, but to have actual garbage cans like we use in camps a lot of times that we can tie down, and that would make them a little more sustainable in camp for preventing messes.
Okay, what do you think about this, Rick? If we had stakes, like a tent stake, to put into the wire rack into the ground, would that be a possibility?
Yeah,
as a mitigation?
Yeah, we tried that, and even with the cash racks, and they work to an extent, but when the wind comes up, it blows those plastic bags away from the tops, and they too end up scattered around camp as well. So a lot of us have gone to garbage cans instead.
And when you say the garbage cans, you have those locally, or who provides the garbage cans?
We've been getting some off the cash vans.
Okay, and that's coming out of Redmond then? Okay.
Yes.
Depends on where you're located.
Yeah.
From the buying team as well.
And yet,
the other comment I had is, if recycling is growing to this extent, have you considered making a Viper contract out of it so that we get more consistency? I mean, it's costing us a fair amount in labor and time to do this anyway, and I was wondering if you'd actually considered a Viper contract, that we could actually get Viper contractors and have them come out and actually manage the recycling in a camp.
Yes, we have, and I appreciate that recommendation, Rick, and that's something we're going to pursue. We just weren't sure if that was a need or not. Again, we're thinking across the whole country in scale, and I think the Viper could be a great way to go. Anything else? Any other comments, Rick? Anything else floating in, Josh or Martin?
Yeah, there's a few.
yeah, let me take one on first, okay?
Okay.
Martin here. And first of all, Shane LaValle, who did the presentation right before you, said he's going to get a hold of you regarding the solicitation process, because there's not really a Viper out there yet for it. And that,
Okay.
But anyway, that will be something that can occur. And let me unmute Fran Herbst here, who might have a question. You're live, Fran. Can you copy? Okay, the hand just came down. Did you have a question to speak, or did you write something maybe? Maybe it was. Go ahead, Fran. Okay, we'll see if there's something written. Go ahead on the next written one. Did you have another one, Josh? We could probably take about 2 or 3 more.
Which one did you do, Carol Johnson?
No, I did not.
Okay. Carol Johnson writes, in the Southwest, we did use gray water for fire suppression.
Yeah, this is Dave Haston. I think that's specific to Region 3.
That was Dave Haston, and he said he thinks that's specific to Region 3.
Okay, great, thanks.
William Gaddis has another question. He says, is there a sanitation concern for potable water trucks and cubies?
Yes, there's always a concern for that. And that's an awareness issue as is for all firefighters. It wouldn't be an exception to anything else per se, but that's again going back to the education. And for example, a lot of folks are using the Camelbacks, and those can get funky, you know. So it goes back to personal responsibility of the firefighter, taking care of themselves, and also with, you know, what the team can provide, like stations for them to clean their canteens out and all that kind of good stuff. So.
Okay, I'll go with the next one. We'll just go for a few more here if we can sort of move towards the conclusion. But
Sure.
First one, this one's from Scott Ritchie. Create a web link, all the locations where recycling can be taken throughout the country. That would be a pretty big link, I bet. But
yeah, and where would be the best place to post that link on the logs website?
Yeah, maybe the lessons learned. I don't know. You know, one of the questions you asked towards the end too is making the connection with everybody. But if we establish a logistics community, you're certainly welcome to join that and post things out there so everyone can see it at once too.
Okay, great.
Let me do the one from Rick Martin. We have tried to get a recycler contractor before who has been available for hire, as it was cost effective over using camp crews. And we have been turned down by the forest management and IBAs and told to hire another camp crew to do all the recycling. This seems to be cost prohibitive, as we don't have any way in many cases to haul recycled materials off the incident, but a contractor recycler can do it all. We need to convince management on so much of this, not the fire organization or fire community. Okay.
All right, thanks for that, Rick.
And then another one from Kevin Clark. Create an ICS position for recycling leader, and we need a crew to do all the labor. And we just got a couple more here. Next one from John Bliven. I've used the recycle vendor Ray mentioned on 3 fires. Cost was minimal, did not require a camp crew. They had their own personnel, reduced need for roll-off dumpsters, and the vendor took the material away. A win-win.
Awesome. Well, I'll be in touch with you, John. Get more information.
And then the next one from Van Cheney. Seems like we hear a lot of these ideas, but with no implementation support. Good ideas, but without support to do the work on the ground during the emergency, little to none may actually happen. Might consider establishing recycle teams to be available to support incidents. And then the last one from Kevin Clark. Create an ICS position for recycling leader. Oh, I guess that one I already read. And we need a crew to do all the labor.
Okay.
And I believe that kind of...
Sorry, your conference is ending now.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
What can we do?
What's happening?
Yeah. Can we...
I think you're okay. It'll just keep going. I don't think it's going to keep me out.
Okay.
All right, good.
Okay. Good.
I could be wrong.
Oh, that was scary. I hope we're still going to be connected for a little while.
Okay, well, I'll wrap up and just thanks everybody for your participation, and